I'd like to introduce Josh Kurtz, our Senior Vice President of Sales. Josh?
Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate that. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking the time today to learn a little bit more about utility incentives, rebates. As Amanda had said, my name is Josh Kurtz. I'm Senior VP of Sales here at Orion, and I've been at Orion for just about 20 years. April 1st will be 20 years. So I've seen a lot of utility incentives rebates out there in the fluorescent world, and now moving into the LED world. So we thought it would be good to put on a webinar just to kind of highlight what's out there, what we're seeing out there, how to best manage and how to best capture the utility incentives that are out there, and really knowing what incentives are out there and how to get a better ROI on your project. So with that, Amanda had said questions throughout, type in and we'll answer those towards the end of the presentation. So just a little highlight on what we're going to cover today, and you can follow along with the slides on the computer here. We're going to cover really how to identify the incentives that are out there, the different programs that are out there, prescriptive, custom, et cetera, that you may run into depending on the utility company that you have, and why the availability of funds are changing. I think most of you out there in this business today, you'll see that funds are going a lot quicker than they have in the past on projects, and you may have a project ready to go and then there's no money approved for it. So we're going to go through that a little bit. Talk about the political landscape a little bit, and how rebates really came about was a political, and we'll talk about that a little bit further on. Recent changes in the DLC. With LED, along with LED came the DLC and DLC listed products, and the DLC premium and how to get a higher incentive for DLC premium products. And then we're going to talk about how to maximize your rebate using the Orion LED high bays. We'll have a few examples in there with the new high efficiency LED ISON product in particular, just additional energy savings and how to get a higher utility incentive with that. What you'll see here is just a map of the continental United States. I guess we have Alaska and Hawaii on there as well. And this is just an overview of the utilities that are out there. You'll see there's over 2,500 utility companies across the U.S. It's important to note that they're not all major utilities. A majority of those utilities are municipalities. So depending on the state that you're in, getting to know that utility is going to be key. Second map here, this is a map of really incentives that are available out there. And you'll see there's a lot less dots on this map than was on the original one. And you'll see some spaces in there, kind of a lot in the plain states, where there's no incentives that are available. A lot of people think, hey, I'm doing this project, I'm going to do an LED project, and I'm going to get money from my utility company. That is not always the case. And you'll see by this map here that there's some spots that are few and far between where there are actual incentives that are available. Incentives come from your utility company. Knowing your utility provider is key. The map that we have here on the screen now really highlights the different utilities that could be in just one area. I can go over example after example of projects that we've done in the past where a customer thought that he was in a certain utility provider's territory, which he was, but he was getting services from a different utility provider that did not offer a utility incentive, or they offered an incentive, but it was less than what they were expecting because they thought they were with a different utility company. Your utility determines the incentive opportunity. They control that dollar amount. A lot of times what we'll run into is larger corporate companies where the actual plant may not control the utility bill. The utility bill goes to a corporate office in Chicago, Atlanta, New York, wherever that may be. And the local site guy may not know 100% where his power is coming from. So it's key to get a utility bill. And I know in the past, a lot of our own internal sales reps, one of the things that's very key for us before we'll actually even do a proposal is to get the utility bill. And this map here is one of the reasons for that. We'll get a lot of pushback from our reps. They can't get a utility bill. Their guy doesn't have access to it. But if we don't have an actual utility bill, if you don't have an actual utility bill, it's going to be very difficult to get an accurate incentive or rebate to put into a ROI proposal. Identifying the rebate opportunity. So you can do a simple Google search. You can Google the utility companies that are in your area, see what they have for incentives that are out there. You'll get a good idea on where it's at. get to know the local utility reps. We've been saying that for 20 years here at Orion. Getting to know the local utility reps are going to be your best bet on managing your incentives and figuring out what they're at and where they're at. But again, going online, it's a great tool. You'll see here there's a link actually to the Department of Energy and the North Carolina State University that maintains a database of incentives across the U.S. That are up to date most of the time, say 90% of the time. So go there, check it out, see what they may have. And you can search your parameters by your market, the technology, the utility, and the incentive type. Again, being different incentives out there, prescriptive, custom, etc. Those websites will help you quite a bit in your search. Again, it comes back to knowing your utility rep. You can work with your utility rep. You're going to get a better idea than any of these sites can certainly give you. All right, understanding the program your utility is offering is critical to maximizing your rebate. The biggest thing is pre-approval required. One of the things that I've seen personally, my team has seen personally, and I know a lot of our distributors and partners out there have seen recently, is a lot of the programs now are going to a pre-approval process. And that pre-approval process in the past, when we were doing fluorescent projects, et cetera, replacing HIDs, we could get a rebate, dollar amount approved, out the door, ship product, install. Now we have a very hard time. Actually, you cannot get a purchase order from a customer until that rebate is approved. It's very, very important to know that, because if a utility company finds out that a end user, one of their end users, has cut a purchase order for an energy efficiency project without getting their rebate pre-approved, they stand the chance to lose that rebate, and they'll get $0 for that rebate, all because they cut that purchase order too soon. So getting to know what pre-approvals are required, and if they are required, is key before you present any dollar amount to your customers. And then is there a trade ally that is involved? TVA is a perfect example of this. Orion is a trade ally. I know there's probably quite a few folks on the webinar today that are also trade allies with the TVA program. But if you're not a trade ally, you cannot work in that program. So a customer, for example, we have a lot of customers a lot of times that will handle their own rebates. Larger end users, own distributors, they have a incentive team that will manage utility incentives, rebates. Problem is, if they are not a TVA trade ally, they can't handle those. So they're going to have to fall on somebody that is a trade ally to handle those incentives for them. And then, does the product qualify? Coming back to DLC, and is it on the the DLC offering list? DLC is something that is new for the LED world. It's nothing that we had to worry about in the past with fluorescent. And the best way that I can relate to DLC and the difference with LED versus fluorescent, I talk to a lot of customers about this all the time, is in the past, if we had a fluorescent fixture and a newer, more efficient ballast came out, more efficient lamp came out, we could switch that out in our factory, have a more efficient fixture, get the same utility incentive. The problem with LED now is if a new driver comes out tomorrow or a new chip comes out tomorrow, Orion or any other manufacturer for that matter cannot just put that in their fixture and have a more efficient fixture. They can, but they can't sell it because it will not be on the DLC list. So you've got to get products DLC listed and approved before they'll be available for incentives. And that's a lengthy process. That adds time to developing new products. You have to have it third-party tested, UL listed, and DLC ready before you can get those incentives that are out there. Another issue with DLC, which is very recent, and there's an example on here about the New Jersey Smart Start program, the having a new fixture versus a retrofit. And New Jersey is a great example. There's others that are out there across the country, but a retrofit won't qualify a lot of times for the rebate program. You'll have to use an actual new fixture to qualify for the retrofit program. We've seen this a lot in office spaces where Orion offers an LDR product, which is a door retrofit, that will not qualify because it has to be a new fixture. So again, important to know that on your program and what type of fixture is needed. I skipped ahead here, sorry. There we go. Okay, what type of program does the utility offer? There's going to be different programs that are out there. There's going to be prescriptive, there's going to be custom, and then there's going to be performance contracting. Performance contracting you don't see a lot of, but there's going to be a few utilities out there that are going to be performance contract. We have some different highlights here. I'll just start with the prescriptive programs. And the prescriptive is the easiest, it's straightforward, it's a certain dollar amount per fixture. For the examples we have on here are replacing a 400 watt HID. They will be a little bit different if you're replacing maybe a T8 fixture or a 1000 watt HID, but for the sake of this example, it's a 400 watt HID. You'll see the prescriptive rebates, again, pretty self-explanatory. SE, Southern California Edison, it's $138 per fixture. PSO in Oklahoma is $150 per fixture. Dominion in Virginia is $167 per fixture. Again, straightforward, a little bit of paperwork, may or may not require pre-approval. Going back to the previous slide, knowing what the program requires before you promise a customer a rebate. But again, pretty straightforward. Then the custom programs that you're going to see out there. These are a little bit more complex, and they are all going to require pre-approval. And the examples we have on here, Puget Sound, Ameren, Pennsylvania, but these are based on energy saved. And as we move further along in the presentation today, we'll see how you can capture a larger rebate by using a more efficient fixture out there. But these are where we see a lot of the programs going to date, going to the custom programs based on energy savings. And that's what these, these projects are about saving energy. And if they can pay based on energy savings, having a more efficient fixture is the route to go with the customer. You can see here just some simple examples. Puget Sound's 20 cents per kWh saved. Ameren is 35 cents per kW per watt saved. Pico is 6 cents per kWh saved. So some very nice incentives that are out there. One thing that's important, the better the incentive, you'll have to be careful of the caps, and we'll get into that in a little bit because they'll cap off that rebate. The third and final one is performance contracting. Performance contracting, they'll pay based on delivered energy savings, but it's a little bit more complex because you're going to have to go in, you're going to have to do some before metering, some post metering after the project, a lot of paperwork involved, and like I said, very few do this out here, but Encore Energy down in Texas is an example of one. You can see they're paying 5.7 cents per kWh saved, or plus $209.21 per kW saved. So it's a very good program, but a lot of work pre and post that go into to gathering those rebates. Understanding the program, and understanding the program, we talked about that a lot. You got to know the incentive out there. I've seen so many times where I've had competitive proposals given to me where there is a incentive on there that just one doesn't make sense, two is over the cap, or just three an outright lie. So not only knowing what you can offer your customer in a proposal, but also if you have a competitor in there, you can you say, hey, here's the way this program is run. I'm not quite sure they're offering you exactly what's right out there. Knowing the program helps deflect some competition out there, which we like to call them rebate chasers. We see a lot of companies out there that like to put a fluff number in there just to try to get a project. We're going to talk about a cap on a project here. So again, very nice incentives out there, but you've got to be careful that you may cap out at a certain dollar amount. It's important to know. Don't put a dollar amount in a proposal that is above the cap. The example we're going to use here is maybe fixed cap at $100,000 or 50% of the project cost, and that typically includes a turnkey project. So it's not going to be 50% of just the material. It's going to be 50% of the material, labor, services for that entire project, and that's what they're going to cap that at, not just the material cost. The example that we run through here is a Puget Sound example. We're replacing an HID with an Orion LED. We're saving almost 2,500 kWh per year. Puget Sound incentives 20 cents per kWh, which is $528 per fixture. And a lot of people will see that number and be like, I'm getting $530 almost per fixture. We should be doing this project now. It's it's a no-brainer. But they cap that at 50% of the project. So just simple math, and we're throwing a number out there. Don't stick to this number by any stretch of the imagination, but $750 is your total fixture installed cost that may be out there. And that's going to vary on lumen packages, wattages, etc. So again, it's just a number. But $750 installed cost to purchase and install, your incentive is going to be capped at $375 per fixture. So again, important to know, you go into a project thinking, hey, I'm going to get $528 for this fixture based on the energy savings that I have. That's going to change based on your total installed cost. Again, example we used here, you'll see it's $375. So important to note when talking to customers, or if you're an end user yourself and you're looking at the program to say, hey, I'm going to get almost $530 per fixture, just know that that's going to be capped, and depending on your install cost is probably not going to be that high. So why is the funding availability changing so rapidly? First and foremost, more companies are out there are seeking utility incentives. We have seen a lot of action, a lot more interest in customers, interest in the LED, for example, just in general. LED is the wave of the future. It's what everybody wants to install. So there's a higher interest in installing these products. And with that said, more and more interest in having utility incentives pay for these projects. So money goes a lot faster. We can give certain examples. I have a few in here, I think on the next slide maybe, where they're oversubscribed, actually on the bottom here. ComEd and Salt River in Arizona are two that consistently run out of money. And again, a lot of that starts with more companies being engaged and wanting to take advantage of the incentives that are out there. Utilities are also changing the incentive structure. There's a couple examples on here. They're running at the end of a 3-year program cycle. There's mixed projects for funding. It's not only for lighting anymore. There's other projects out there that they're using money for. So a lot of people think of incentives, especially us in the lighting world, the LED world, well, these incentives are just earmarked for lighting. Well, that's not necessarily the case. They're for any energy savings project out there. They could be for VFDs, boilers, chillers. And I know a lot of you guys on this webinar today know that, but it's important to know that it's not just earmarked for LED lighting. When those funds dry up, they may go or they may change. They may take away from LED funding and move it into a funding for VFDs, as I stated. So important to know that on why the fluctuation that you see out there with a lot of the programs that are out there. And then on the bottom again, just the oversubscription, as I mentioned earlier. That's the biggest one that we run into. But it's a way to get customers to move on projects as well. For all of you guys on the webinar today that are selling the Orion product out there, there's so many times and examples that I lose track of them, that a customer finally decides to pull the trigger on a project, but then the rebate money's gone. We had an example just down in Texas not too long ago. Very good sized project. Customer finally decided they had money, they wanted to move on the project. It was a rebate that paid for about 50% of the project. Those funds were gone. They wanted to do the project anyway. They couldn't justify the project. They had to put it on hold. So, getting customers to move on projects, having them know about the oversubscription and that the utilities can run out of money is key. You got to educate your customers that this money is not there forever. It will be gone. People will take it. How do political and regulatory changes impact incentives? So, a few of you may know, not everyone may know, but these programs usually start out political, and there is some political driver that is driving a certain utility to cut energy reduction, which in turn they have the incentives for. So it's important to know that when an election year comes along, it's important to know that if the political landscape is going to change, the incentives may change as well. And I think a lot of you that have been doing this for a while, you kind of have seen that certain political parties are more apt to give higher incentives out there than others. So that is an important thing to know when you're dealing with an election year like we have coming up this year. So another reason that you're going to see some impact, I believe, on incentives that are out there. You're also seeing some changes to federal programs. I know some of you on this today are very familiar with PACE funding and EPACT tax benefits. Most of you probably know that EPACT was just renewed. So EPACT is back in the fold. EPACT tax benefits is an accelerated depreciation tool that customers can use. And PACE funding. PACE is a way to fund projects. And these are just two examples of certain programs that you can use besides utility incentives to help do an energy savings project, be it LED, be it VFD, be it boilers, chillers, et cetera, that are out there. So Getting to know these programs is going to be key, because as we move forward in the LED world here, and as the incentives change, getting to know these type of programs and others that are out there, it's going to help you have a leg up on your competition and know exactly what you're talking about when you're out there. The impacts of performance standard changes. So this really gets into the DLC, what I call the DLC premium, and we have an example of Pacific Gas and Electric on here. And if you guys are familiar with PG&E, they've had some accelerator programs throughout the years, and now they have a DLC premium that is out there. And really what that means is you're getting a higher incentive for a higher efficient product. And if you have a higher efficient product to sell, that works out great for you. It gives you a leg up on your competition. And PG&E is just one example, but there are others that will follow suit. It never fails. It always seems things start in California, or I like to say they start on the coast. The east and west coast kind of meets in the middle here in the Midwest, us Wisconsinites. But getting to know those programs and being ahead of it, the worst case scenario, if you're out there selling a product, is having your customer tell you about a certain program and you not knowing about it. So being educated on the programs that are out there, DLC Premium being one of them, bringing that to your customer before they bring it to you is going to be key. Knowing the programs that are out there and what you can deliver for your customer is huge. And the third bullet point here, these changes can come at any time. It doesn't have to be a new year for the utility or a new rebate year. They have the free will to change these programs at any time. And it could be in the middle of a program. You could have an incentive that was good one day, the next day it's no longer good because they have changed these the performance criteria. And again, important to know, staying on top of these rebates so you're aware of this. Again, nothing worse than having a rebate incentive that you thought was good given to your customer, and then when they finally decide to pull the trigger, that rebate or that incentive is no longer available. So I want to go through just a couple slides here on on that performance and what you can see using a higher performing fixture as it relates to an incentive out there. And I'm going to go through just two quick examples. One of them is replacing a 400 watt HID. I have the math up on the screen and I'll talk through it a little bit. And certainly any questions as we go through, type them in. We'll hit them up at the end of the presentation. More than happy to do that. But what we have here is we're replacing 100 400 watt HID fixtures. 7,500 hours a year, which is pretty typical for a manufacturing type setting, even maybe a distribution center with no motion control. Per year at a rate of 8 cents. 8 cents is pretty average if you average it out across the country, so we felt it was a pretty good number to use. And we're replacing those with an LED high bay fixture that delivers 19,000 lumens. And the replacement options as we go through here, HID high bay using 458 watts, the Orion ISON high bay, you're using 106 watts per fixture, okay? Then we have the competitive high bay in there. That is the competitive LED high bay that's going to use 172 watts per fixture. And if you guys know about our ISON product line out there delivering 179 lumens per watt, that's how we're able to use less watts per fixture than our competitors out there. So that's where we're getting the 106 versus the 172 watts. You can see the system operating parameters. We go through the KW, go through the KWH, we go through the bill. So you have your existing, you have your Orion, and then you have the savings. Then on the right-hand side, you have the existing, the competitive, and the savings. So you see with the Orion system, we're saving $21,120 a year versus $17,160 per year for the competitor. So we're saving almost $4,000 more with the Orion product. Now, getting into, again, what type of utility program is out there and what type of incentive is available for these products, you'll see the example of the Public Service of Oklahoma, okay? That's a prescriptive program. Again, prescriptive program, you're paying a certain dollar amount per fixture is what you get for the LED high bay. The incentive's the same. It's $150 per fixture. So you're seeing an incentive of $15,000 for either project, whether you're going with the Orion product or whether you're going with the competitive product. So same incentive, you're seeing the additional savings with the Orion product. Now, if you're in a custom program that's paying on energy savings or KWH saved, like the Pennsylvania Electric Company here, as we use as an example, they're paying 6 cents per KWH saved. All right, 6 cents per kWh saved, or $15,000 roughly for the Orion project versus $12,000 for the competitive LED high bay. Okay, so you're saving an additional almost $4,000 in energy savings by using the Orion product. Now, on top of that, you're seeing an additional $3,000 immediate rebate because you're using a product that is more efficient. So again, immediate impact to that bottom line, less capital up front, and additional energy savings throughout the life because of using a more efficient product. The second example here that I want to highlight is replacing a 6-lamp T8. As you guys know, when you're selling product out there, there is a lot of customers that have either a 6-lamp T8 product or a 4-lamp T5 product. They have retrofitted their HIDs to a fluorescent, and now they're looking to upgrade those fluorescents to an LED product. The example that we see here, we use a 6-lamp T8. Ladies and gentlemen, it could be a 4-lamp T5 as well. The energy savings in that will be very, very similar. So don't lose track of the 6-lamp T8 here. It could be a 4-lamp T5 as well. So again, pretty much the same type of example. We're replacing 100 6-lamp T8s, 7,500 hours a year. Again, 8-cent kilowatt cost, and using a 19,000 lumen fixture. We use a 19,000 lumen fixture for this particular example. What I've seen out there is you can probably use a lot less, but for the sake of the slide today and going through the rebate, we're going to stick with the 19,000 lumen. So you have the fixture wattage breakdown. You got a 6-lamp T8 that's using 226 watts of energy, and it'll range if you're using a lower wattage T8 tube. We certainly understand that. That may range down to 210, 216, up to 226. We understand that. Again, going with the Orion Ison high bay, which is going to use 106 watts per fixture, and again, the competitive LED high bay, which is going to use over 170 watts per fixture. Same savings breakdown. You have the system operating parameters with the Orion product versus the competitive product. You can see here we're saving $7,200 per year with the Orion product versus saving only $3,200 a year with the competitive product. So right off the bat, again, you see almost a $4,000 savings going with the Orion product over the competitive product because of the higher efficiency. Again, two different types of rebate programs. South Carolina Gas and Electric incentive would be $50 per fixture. You get $5,000 for both projects. There's no difference. So all you have in here is the additional energy savings with the Orion product. Same rebate up front. Then we go to Puget Sound out in Washington, which is a custom program. The incentive would be 20 cents per kWh saved. 20 cents per kWh saved is an $18,000 rebate for the Orion project or an $8,000 rebate for the competitive project. So you can see a great example here. If you're up in the state of Washington, Puget Sound is your utility. If you use an Orion product to replace existing 6-lamp T8s, 4-lamp T5s, you're going to see an additional $10,000 rebate by going with the Orion product. $10,000 immediately up front is a higher incentive because of the higher efficient fixture. On top of that, you're going to save almost $4,000 additional annually. So a first year, you're going to see an additional almost $14,000 because you chose the Orion product over a competitive product. We're to the question part of the program. So Amanda, do you have some questions for us? Okay, I don't know who asked the question, but I'm going to go on a limb and say I believe where they're going with this is talking about new construction projects versus a retrofit project. So again, knowing the incentives that are out there, knowing the utility company, most projects and what these numbers are based off of are based on retrofit. Now, working with the utility company on a new construction project, you will find some utilities out there that will pay an incentive for a new construction project. Typically, what's going to happen, though, that incentive will not be as great as if it was a retrofit. But again, getting to know the utility rep, getting to know the programs out there, what we've been able to do on a lot of situations is we'll work with the utility where that new building is going up, and we will put together two projects. Okay, here is project A. This is if they put in a 400 watt HID, or this is if they put in a 6-lamp T8. Here's project B if they put in an LED project, and then we would show the savings, and then they would base that, they would come up with some sort of incentive based on that proposal. It doesn't happen all the time, and you will see less money thrown towards new construction, but there are some incentives out there versus just the retrofit side of things.
Also, someone is asking about new parking lot lighting. Would these incentives possibly apply to that?
Again, I think that's probably going back to the same thing as if there's no existing, so it'll be a typical kind of a new construction versus a retrofit. Again, similar to the example of the new construction. You're going to have to dig a little bit deeper to see what incentives are available and work closely with the utility company because, again, these are based specifically a lot of times around that retrofit market. Again, the utilities, and again, it's driven politically, they have a objective to meet to reduce the amount of energy that's being used on the grid. So it's based on retrofits. So if you can work closely with the utility and show an example of the customer's going to put in 400 watt HIDs, we're proposing this, here's the savings, what type of incentive can I get? So there'll be some available, but again, it may not be as great as a retrofit.
Where can we get more detailed information about PACE funding and the newest EPAC program?
So the question was, where can they get more detail on PACE funding and or the EPAC? I would suggest, and the marketing guys may hurt me for this, but send an email into, is there an email off of the webinar here? There is, okay. Send an email into the email that's on the webinar here. What the team will do then is get that out to the right folks, myself or someone on my team that can answer any specific questions as it relates to PACE and EPAC, any other programs that may be out there.
Does anyone have any more questions? We'll hold for a few seconds here.
No more questions? Okay.
It looks like we are up for questions. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We hope the webinar was beneficial. And if you have any questions after the webinar, please feel free to follow up with your Orion representative directly. Remember, this presentation will be available on demand, so you will receive a follow-up email with a link to the on-demand video and documentation. Thanks again for watching, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you.